Okay, I am back. Sorry about that, you guys. This has been a little bit challenging, but I'm very happy that I'm kind of getting the kinks out of it. My first guest on tonight, I told her, I said, I said, I'm sorry, but you're going to be my guinea pig. So so I'm waiting for her. She's going to come into the studio. And as I'm waiting for her to come in, I just kind of want to say a few things about Live Like. As you all, if you all have been noticing, I've been posting some new T-shirts. I have a new T-shirt line, a new campaign, God Over Everything, and that is going to be absolutely fabulous. I can't wait. I'm in the very last stages of having those T-shirts printed, and believe you me, as soon as I have those T-shirts and ready to go, I will let you guys know. Um, and I will let you guys know, and I'll start getting those out. I do have some orders already in advance for those shirts. I just want to say that during this time of COVID and so much going on, I tell you, it's been pretty awesome. God just really spoke that thing to me one day, because it's true. God over everything. And so God over everything. And so that's really what this whole campaign is all about. God over everything. We have so many issues and so many things going, and everything is just swirling around and whistling around us. There's news on top of news. There's information on top of information. And it's just really getting to be crazy. And so this campaign, God Over Everything, is just that. It is God over everything. If you can see me, if you would just put in a comment, let me know. I just want to make sure that I have gone live on this. So if you get that information, just be sure and just let me know. I mean, just go ahead and throw up some hearts or throw up something, amen, so that I know that you are watching on tonight. Okay, so again, I think I see her coming in now. I think I see her coming. Yes. This software is just, it's a little something. Let's see. I'm going to type this in. Okay. I hate that you guys have to go through all this while I'm waiting for all this to happen. But I promise you, by the next time this happens, then I'll have those things in order. The other thing I want to talk about tonight is the book. I've been talking about this book, Queen Over Diva, for the longest time, and it took me so long to get it together because this is my first time actually writing a book, and I kept coming to a part where I thought that I was at the end of the book, but really I was not at the end of the book. I still have more information to add. And so as things changed and things were updated, then I was able to add, oh, I see her. I see my friend. I'm going to add her in. I see you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Awesome. All righty. Well, everyone, this is the person that I've been talking about. I want to invite you to the Live Like Lifestyle podcast. This is Juana Thompson. This is my friend, my sister from another mother. Oh, yeah. She's been my friend. I've been a mentor, just so many things, a shoulder to cry on, a person I seek advice from, just all these things that she has been to me. And I appreciate her so, so very much. And so I want to welcome you to the show. I'm not going to try to keep you all to myself today. I'm letting everybody else in the world see how awesome and wonderful you really are. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. And I'm so grateful. This has been a long time coming.
Yes, it has.
So I'm so grateful for the opportunity and such excitement. For those of you who are out there listening, Facebook land, YouTubers, it's so awesome to see the hand of God and how that hand moves and things begin to manifest. So thank you so much, CEO Patricia Cardinal, Live Life Ministries. Amen.
Amen.
So grateful for this time and truly, even in this pandemic that we're in, I can truly encourage those out there that's watching or that needs a word of encouragement. Listen, don't lose hope. God is still in control. Amen.
Yes.
He's in control. And so I'm just going to, it's such an honor. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I am excited. So I'm going to just kind of, I'm here for you. You tell me which direction that, yes, we want to go. And you lead, I will follow.
All right. So what I want to do as we begin the show is I think it's always important for people to know a person's background, a little bit about them. And you have quite an incredible journey on your hands. You have been really transformed. Everyone knows, of course, anyone that knows anything about Live Like knows, amen, that I love the Lord, right? They know that God is in the thing. But what I'd like to do is I'd like for you to share a little bit about before you were the woman that you are today. How did you deal with situations in your life? How did you deal with conflict? How did you, try to master those things that tried to master you, before you got saved for real?
Ooh, Lord, keep me as I talk about this. Well, for those of you out there, I just that do not know, I am that girl from the boot. That is Louisiana, La Zabonton Roulette. So, having that background there, born and raised and out of Louisiana, started off in Opelousas and then ended up in Plaisance, Louisiana. And I am the only daughter. My mother had three children. So I have two brothers and I'm that middle child. Okay. And being the only girl, I tell you, conflict has surely that has been, it's kind of been a thread and it's been something that I've dealt with even at a young age in regards to that. And, it was amazing because I would always, it looks like conflict, I always found myself in the middle of or somewhere around where there was conflict. And even before who I am today, I just had the wisdom and the knowledge that God used to bring peace to conflict. And I really do believe that it was even at a young age that the Lord began to show and display that this was going to be something that was going to be used for his glory. There was conflict even in the home. I can remember many nights that mom and dad had conflict, and I was that child that would come in there and bring peace to the situation. And the peace would always be something that would allow both mom and dad to take time out and just begin to reflect upon themselves and to really cause them to think about the resolution being what's going to benefit, what's going to bring them together as a team, or what's going to help the family. I even, as growing up and went to school, I was our class president. So I always find myself on debate teams, leadership position where, again, conflict was something that it might sound a little weird, but it was comfortable. With the conflict, knowing that it was an opportunity to solve a problem.
I like that because again, that because I'm also one. Always would shy away from conflict. And things and situations. And but it's so great that you had that opportunity to see that there was a great benefit in it. Right. Some people like conflict just because they like conflict. They like to stir up strife, but truly you had an opportunity and we're blessed to be able to see that great things can come out of conflict. Right. Yeah. Right. So, and I can tell, and I know that actually being under your management, that you were not one that would shy away. You would not shy away, but you would always seek to find a resolution. So, what you said, I believe that to be true. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about anger, or a lot about anger. In this day and age that we're in this pandemic, I'm not sure where that feedback is coming from.
Kind of hear something that almost sounds like what do you call that? An ultrasound. You hear something in the room, boom, boom, boom. So God must be doing something on your birthday.
Oh, that's my volume. Okay, it went away now. Okay, kind of. Anyway, so when it comes to anger, and you are a certified anger resolution therapist, what can you give us like a good working definition of anger?
Well, let me start by just kind of giving a little background in regards to the direction and kind of where I sit in regards to that certification.
Okay.
I have about 34 years of experience in the healthcare industry. Of the 34 years, I have about 21 years that's specifically dedicated in the area of behavioral health.
Okay.
So in that behavioral health field, I was really able to kind of narrow the gifting down and kind of focus on things that I had gained through education, gained through godly wisdom, through mentorship. It was various outlets that the Lord had kind of set doors and opened doors there. And so I saw myself as being 21 years in the industry of behavioral health, working for a local EAP, which is an employee assistance program. I began to see that there was a need, specifically as people are calling in for counseling services. And as I'm listening at intakes and I'm reviewing quality tapes and just having the opportunity to also engage in intakes and triage and diffusing, what I came to realize is that there was an issue in the lives of many people that really stems from the 4-letter word anger.
Wow.
And when I realized that, this was an issue for many people, and it was actually hindering people to actually live out a life of purpose. And so many people were operating under so many myths in terms of how you deal with that anger. So what I did was I began to kind of focus, and I prayed, went before the Lord, and that's how Affirmation Point was birthed.
Okay.
Was through that. And as we begin to kind of look at, again, that anger management focus of it, I think, unfortunately, anger, it has many ways that it enters an individual's life, right?
Okay.
You have many people who feel things deeply and react strongly to certain situations around them. And sometimes what that does is it can cause an issue. It starts to affect their marriage, your job, your children, the sense of who you are. So it has a way of affecting and impacting everything that your life is tied to.
Wow.
So when I began to really understand that, people really needed the tools to be able to successfully deal with, again, anger. And as I started running into folks and people began to talk about how they dealt with their anger, I don't know if you remember back in the days, they'd say, if you're angry, you just take a pillow and you just beat that.
Right.
You could take a bat or something and, tear up some equipment. And I have to say that, that is a myth. That is not the proper way to deal with anger. Anger has to be dealt with in a form of solution focus. Okay. So just follow me in terms of where I'm going there. In terms of, again, anger is something that it's a human emotion, right?
Right. It is.
Whether it could either be it's appropriate or it's inappropriate way of expressing that anger, right?
Sure. Right.
So without a doubt, we know that within our humanistic being is that anger is something that on a day-to-day basis within our lifetime, we're going to deal with that anger. Even Jesus dealt with it, right?
Right.
When he went into the temple and he kicked over the table and, there was that holy anger. And so there are things that when we are in situations or whatever, we have to learn how to deal with that anger that is going to be to a positive solution, being that, okay, I recognize it. Now, what's the solution?
What's the solution? That's good.
Okay. So, and if you remember, I kind of said with my mother and father that, when there was conflict there, we would separate, friends, we would separate. Hey guys, let's not talk at each other. Let's not be ready to tear up each other. Even with the whole dynamic of this bullying situation, if you really deal with that, behind that is, again, an individual who is operating in some form of inappropriate anger.
Gotcha.
And so we have to really kind of be able to identify and look at it in terms of, again, a way that we're going to find a solution to it. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things that we're kind of really dealing with, and I'm sure you know, as well as I know, as well as the audience out there, kind of with this COVID-19, this has been very, very traumatic for all of us, right?
Yes.
And so it's natural that we're angry. You're going to find people that are angry because guess what? They're experiencing a loss. You're going to find people that are angry about the whole social distancing. They're angry about because they've lost their jobs. They're angry that guess what? No one has a solution to this virus. So people are, again, there are different reasons why people are operating in or experiencing or displacing some type of anger at this time that we're in. But what we must remember is that we see the solution, we see the problem, we know what it is, but then we have to find a positive way to truly deal with this in our time of loss. So even as you find people who are so upset about the whole social distancing, what's the purpose? Why are you angry about that?
Right. Exactly.
And so they'll have some people are angry because, hey, I won't get to see my friend anymore. I won't get to, spend time with this individual. Okay, so what's the solution to that?
What's the solution?
Technology is great.
Yes, it is.
So
Yes.
just because, again, we're complying ourselves with the ordinance of social distance. Let's use if I'm upset because I feel that I'm going to lose some time with a specific individual. What about technology? Cell phones. What about platforms as Zoom or the ability FaceTime? So you still have, again, the solution to that social distance. If my issue with it is that I'm going to lose the ability to actually be connected with this individual, then my solution is I find a way to stay connected with the individual.
Exactly. And that's really key is a lot of times when we encounter situations and I actually had a situation even at work today, and I shared with someone because we have a new program, and those things make people upset. It's a whole new program. It's something we're required to work in. So we can either fuss and complain about it, or we can say, okay, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to learn. I'm going to take this as an opportunity to grow and expand, and make the most of that particular opportunity. And that lies within us to do.
Right.
Nobody can do it for us.
Right. And that you make a good point there, because again, as you talk about, again, dealing with the that anger, that's the main thing, is that when you look at it and you explore the anger, you really have to say, what are the feelings that's underlining my anger here? What losses am I experiencing? So you see what you're doing now, you're doing a self-evaluation. You're reflecting upon yourself. You recognize that when your anger is distracting you from the sadness of loss. Some people really don't want to experience, or they don't want to go through, that grieving process. So the anger, it distracts them. But guess what? It's okay to grieve. It's okay to grieve your loss. You understand that grieving process. And some people deal with that, Patricia, is because they don't really deal with certain things within their life. So you take individuals who have experienced some type of loss, they don't understand the stages of grief to properly go through that, so that they do not have to act out or display again that anger. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that when we understand that we must explore, you must explore your anger. You have to explore, because you want to understand what is the underlying feelings, what feelings are underlying, what are the things that I myself, not taken into consideration, have not addressed, have not dealt with. It is so easy as people, busy people, and I'm telling you, I love it. This COVID-19, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. The fact that, number one, it's making us slow down. We're getting back to things that, let's get back to the basic of things, slowing down, making sure that, we have family time. And oh my goodness, speaking of that, where you have right now, what we're seeing is there is a rise. It's on the rise right now, domestic violence.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Breaking. Because again, what has happened is that we have individuals who've entered into relationships, covenant of marriage. And so now with COVID-19, jobs, of course, people are working from home, some are laid off. And so you have individuals, husband and wife, who's at home, and they're spending time with each other 24/7, 300, whatever day, they're in there. So they don't have that, leave home, go to work. And so now they're really being forced to deal with, again, things that they have actually not dealt with for some time.
Right.
And so what we're seeing now is there's an increase of domestic violence, because, again, people are not wanting to deal with the issues. Folks are angry. And so they're displacing that anger in places where it's not a solution focus.
It's not
solution focus. And the other thing is, people have to recognize when there's a past experience. Sometimes there are past experiences that are not always pleasant, but when that past experience might influence a current reaction or situation, if it's something that, comes up and it has not been pleasant in the past, if you're still dealing with those issues, then that means that you've not dealt with that.
So, that really leads me to a question really that I had here. And I'm going to ask this for a friend. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
When they say when you ask for a friend, you really asking for yourself.
Yes.
No, it's something I've dealt with previously, and that's being self-aware, right? And I used to be a person that say, I don't have any anger. I don't have any anger issues. But that was not really the truth, because it manifested in other ways. I didn't see it as necessarily the rage that comes out, but anger has a way of manifesting in other ways. What are some of those ways that, anger kind of sneaks its way in and it begins to manifest in our lives?
Sometimes what you'll see is you'll find individuals that will begin to isolate themselves. You'll find individuals who will begin to start cutting off certain relationships without communicating or being vocal about certain situations. You'll find there's envy. You'll find for just no reason whatsoever, the jealousy, the competition. You'll find things in terms of even to the point where authority, and we see that often with sometimes children. We'll see that, that oppositional defiant disorder as it's clinically diagnosed. That, sometimes things of that nature stems because individuals are having difficulties in following directions. So sometimes something as simple as that, following directions, following orders. Some of the things that I've noticed that in the workplace, and of course, you and I have actually worked together. It was a period that you worked under my leadership, and sometimes there are people that you will have in the workplace that will actually have the ability to lead a team under the supervision of a supervisor, right? And so you'll find individuals who are dealing with things such as because they're angry because this person actually, was promoted to the team lead, or this person was promoted into this position. What they'll do is they'll find themselves being defiant, or they'll find themselves not submitting to or not compliant. And so you'll find those ways in terms of, again, so when there is something and you feel that, okay, well, I'm not tearing things up, I'm not bashing things, I'm not destroying things. Those are not the only manifestation of anger. When you find yourself in a situation where you are specifically and intentionally making a decision not to comply, okay, you want to now start really on an evaluation with that to see why. You find yourself operating in some form of envy, jealousy. You want to really start narrowing that thing down and seeing, again, what's the underlying feeling? Are you doing this because it is, again, out of a form of anger, even to the point of isolation and, again, cutting off relationships?
What about turning that anger on yourself?
And, that has to be one of the most dangerous. That's danger. When it gets to that place, it's really, really dangerous because then what you'll find is that self-destruction, it could lead and feed through things such as now anger will move to forms of addiction. So you'll see individuals will now start, and one of the most common ones that we see there is, unfortunately, is your substance addiction. Through alcohol or some form of chemical substance. So it's very, very, when it gets to that place, we really, really have to stop and begin to look at that, because we know clearly, Proverbs, and I love that Proverbs 25, it tells us a man without self-control is like a city broken in two and left without walls.
Wow.
And even James, I love how the book of James put that, and he says, for the anger of a man does not produce the righteousness of God.
Wow.
And so we really, really, when that thing start manifesting within ourselves, and we feel that, okay, well, I'm not going to harm others. Oh, I don't really need help. I don't need help because I'm not hurting anyone. I can control, but yet you're hurting yourself because of the fact that, number one, now you've turned to a form of addiction, or you've turned to some type form of destruction. When you get to the place where people are uncomfortable being around you, and here's what I always say about relationships or whatever. If you find yourself in a situation where multiple people are having issues, you have issues with multiple people, if you are the common denominator, then now it's time to stop. The math has really come to the place where we can stop and say, okay, I am the common denominator.
I'm the common denominator.
So now I need to remember what the Proverbs tell me. And now I see why these individuals, because Proverbs 22, I think it tells that it say, make no friendship with a man given to anger, nor go with a wrathful man. So therefore, if you wonder, well, I don't have any friends, well, guess what? It's clear that I should make friendships, okay, with a man who is given to anger. So you have to really, really begin to stop and look at the things in terms of what I can control. And that's the key when you're dealing with the anger. Look at the ability to say, here's your key. Now, here's your golden nugget. I'm getting you here, and we're going to wrap this one up here in terms of that. When you're dealing with that anger, you have to say, what are the things that I cannot control? Okay, so that I can let go of those things. And then you have to say, what are the things that I can control? Now, what we can control is, guess what? A positive attitude.
Yes, absolutely.
You can control what type of attitude you can have. I love it when people are just so cheerful, and sometimes morning people, you hear people say, "Oh boy, this will work my nerves." I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person. What kind of person are you? Noon, afternoon, or what? If you're a child of God, you should be thankful for let everything that has breath praise the Lord and give thanks for this day. And you want God to be reflected in your morning, noon, and night, whatever, right? So the things that you can control is your attitude. You can control how you follow certain recommendations. So if there's guidelines and rules and regulation, you can control how you follow those.
Yes.
Now, you're going to get there and try to dissect, well, I just think that's crazy. I just think this is ridiculous. And I think you kind of shared a situation of what occurred at work today. And like you said, bottom line, guys, let's make the best of it.
Yeah.
So again, these are the things you can control. You can control in terms of, and I love this one, in terms of, again, what are you listening to? What is it that I'm allowing my eye gates to look up on, my ears to hear certain things. So you want to make sure that whatever you're feeding into your life, it is that which is going to be positive.
Absolutely.
It's not something that is going to cause you to, to rage, to let that anger in terms of be something that would rage up even the more so.
Right. Okay, so that's great, because that was really kind of my next segue was I wanted to look at what are some practical things that individuals can do. All of us, I'm going to put me too. What are some practical things we can do, right, when it comes to dealing with our own anger, so that we master it and it does not master us?
Well, and then it really comes back to, one of the things is going to be to develop a regular routine, okay? Self-discipline and routines are so good in terms of, because that's going to serve as parameters, okay? It's going to serve as parameters in our lives. And when you have structure, when you have routines in your life, there are certain activities that are wholesome. those are the things that will actually kind of help us in terms of, again, managing ourselves, and especially in this time that we're in. I think that it is very important that we learn to stay connected with individuals that are wholesome for us, okay? Learn how to limit how much time you're engaging in terms of watching the television and the news and reading. Limit that time. It's great to receive the information, but it's not something that you need to spend every day, all day looking at that information.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good one, because I tell you, there's so much information now, and it's like it's unending.
Yes.
And some of it is good information. It's edifying. Some information is not.
Yes.
People like conspiracies. So anytime there's any type of a conspiracy, people just hop on it immediately. It's like, wait a minute, have you even stopped to think, know, or even investigate? So those are some really, really good topics. So let me ask you this: for an individual who, so perhaps they've heard this particular podcast, and they're going, okay, yes, I have anger issues. Yes, my anger issues are affecting my family, is affecting my marriage. I can't keep friends. I've got all these things going on, but I don't seem to know how to control it. Then I need some help.
Mm-hmm.
So what will you say to an individual? Where would you direct them to if they say that, okay, I surrender, I have an anger problem, and I need help?
And I'm going to first say that, wow, awesome, A+, great. Grace first step is acknowledging that you have the problem, you have the issue. And then the great thing about it is now that you're at a place where you're open and you're really willing to now deal with this. And so where do you go from here? One of the greatest things is, of course, and we're talking about practical. I love to encourage people to counsel and to specifically counsel with people of the faith, Christian counselors, because again, we're going to make sure that we're providing you with practical tips, but also we're going to provide you with the Word of God, because that's the agent that's going to, guess what, provide that change. That's going to bring about, again, that brokenness, and then put us back together and help us to understand that it's a process. So what I want you to understand is that even for those of you who may already have reached out for counseling or been in treatment, and you said, I've done that before and it didn't work, and then you stop. Listen. There's a saying that says Rome was not built in a day. You're going to have to work your way through this. It is a process. It's a process. And so one of the things that we often tell the people that come through our group, what I do is I actually work with the court. And so a lot of my referrals, I'm grabbing those from the court system. Okay. And so they actually come in, and now they've been mandated by the court system to receive some form of anger management therapy, whether it is for them to actually keep their job, or if it's actually some type of domestic violence situation, or some type of child abuse, or even to the point of where individuals are given situations where, or terms and conditions where, if you don't comply with X amount of hours of anger management therapy, then guess what? You're going to have someone knocking on your door, and we're going to issue a warrant for your arrest.
Wow, that's serious.
It is serious. And sometimes it takes people, especially when you have anger coupled with addiction. When you find that anger and addiction working, that's kind of the fall. And now they realize that, you know what? I have hit the rock bottom, and now it's time for me to really get serious about get serious about this counseling. And so again, as you're out there, you're seeking, you want to definitely look for a counselor, a Christian-based counselor. And it's great to look for your CART, C-A-R-T. That's a certified anger resolution therapist. Mm-hmm. And the reason why you want to really focus and stick with that type of therapist that deals with anger management is because we understand, again, and we're going to deal with that anger from a solution focus. Okay. And we're not going to deal with it through some of the myths, the old pressure cooker theories and themes, but we're coming with a solution focus. What's the problem? And we're going to hold you accountable to doing the work. How are we going to resolve? How are you going to resolve this problem?
Right.
And people really have to get to the place really that they think before you speak. You must think before you speak. And then once you calm your anger, then you have to really understand that, you know, there's a way to express it. Okay. Yes. But it's a healthy way. And then I often encourage most of my clients, I tell them, go get some exercise. If you don't have, you need to go running. You need to go do something that's going to allow you to work up and release physical activities, help reduce stress. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you can actually reduce that stress, then if it's not reduced, if you're not limited or working or watching that stress builds up into anger.
Wow.
And so you really have to find a way to keep ahead of that, making sure that what kind of outlets do I have? Take time out for yourself. You need to really learn how to take time out for yourself. Give yourself short breaks throughout the day where you're really focusing on yourself. Quiet time. Some people are afraid of quiet time. Did you know that?
Wow.
They really don't want to deal with that quiet time because, again, they're afraid of what things they may come to their mind that they have to deal with. And that's why they don't like the quiet time, because the quiet time is going to reveal some things in terms of that. And then again, I always say with my clients in terms of really, and it's opposite. You're going to kind of look at me and say, oh, because it's oxymoron here, because when we say, you know, there's no I in the team, you've heard that before, right?
Right.
Dealing with anger management, it's important to understand that you must stick with I statements. You know, you must use the I. For example, I'm upset because you left the table. So again, you really have to be able to use something that, for example, if you're having dinner with someone and, you know, they just leave the table without any announcements or whatever, and now that really made you upset. You're really angry behind that. And so you have to find a way to calm down and express that. And then well, you know, if you get to the place where you just start breaking that down, well, you know, you just did this. It's not about you. It's I. Communicate it with the I statement. Use I. Wow. I am upset because you left the table without offering to help do the dishes.
Wow.
You left the table without helping, you know, do the dishes. Instead of you never ask whether or not, you know, I need help with homework. Use the I statement. It's okay. I need your help. I feel this way. I thought I heard you say that. Because again, use that. You see where I'm going with this? And I think, again, that is a concept that we often don't apply because, again, we always come back with the I. Well, they say I is not good. There's no I in the team. But when you're dealing with, again, solution focus, in this case, it's okay. And you must use I because it's going to help you focus and it's going to help with the communication. And most of all, guess what? Don't hold a grudge.
Oh, that's a whole nother show.
It's a whole nother show. You know why? Because forgiveness is a powerful tool. And if you allow anger and any other negative feelings to actually crowd out your positive feelings, then you're going to find yourself swallowed up in your own bitterness and your sense of injustice.
Woo! Ouch, that's a bitter stew right there.
Yes.
Bitter
don't hold grudge, people.
Yeah.
Don't hold grudges. Let it go. Let it go.
Passive aggressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't hold it.
I used to be one of those, really did. Man, I still struggle with that today. I still struggle. I'd be like, look, girl, get it together.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have a conversation. They say you got to talk to yourself. But, well, they say don't answer. Well, I do answer. I tell myself, you need to get it together because you ain't doing it.
And they're having a whole conversation. Yeah, you're right. That's an old myth how they say, well, it's okay if you talk to yourself, just don't answer yourself. But I think sometimes we do need to answer ourselves because you know what? You can really see, kind of hear what okay, that sounds like foolishness right there.
Yeah, that sounded like a mess.
Exactly. And then, one of the other things, Patricia, I think is that people forget to, again, to practice. I often encourage, especially the men, that come in for counseling, because these men, think about the burden that they carry. So many of them are carrying the burden of making sure they provide for their families and they do the right thing. So I often encourage them to practice relaxation skills. And I think, again, even sometimes just, deep breathing exercise. Sometimes you just need to stop and you know what? Just take a deep breath. I tell you, you just take a deep breath and say, thank you. That may be all you need to just say, thank you.
Wow.
And so when you learn how to actually practice relaxation skills, that actually helps as well. It helps you just to kind of refocus, and it's going to help you think. It's going to help you think before you speak.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been an awesome show. I want to thank you so much for being my guest on the show. There's been some great tips. I've seen a few comments come in, even from YouTube side. So, yes. And so that means that people are listening and they're tuning in. And there was that you had some really, really great ways that individuals need to deal with anger. And bottom line is, if you need help, just get some help.
Yes.
Don't continue down the road that you know that there's nothing good for you at the end of that road. So if push come to shove, get you some help. So I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Live Like Lifestyle podcast. I hope that something was said will encourage your heart, will bless you. If you have any questions or any comments, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. I'm under Live Like on Facebook, or Patricia Isaac Cardinal. You can also reach out to me on my website, www.livelikeshop.com. You can leave your information on that show as well. And I want to thank you again for joining in. We will have another show coming up this week. And I will have details on that show as the time approaches. So God bless you. God bless you, one of you, and God bless each one of you that are listening. So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Blessings.
Thank you.